The mood here is dark and tense. In fact, the city even looks blacker tonight compared to yesterday. There are fewer lights on. Residents here are being told to restrict their movements, and it seems like they are heeding that advice. Now, Ukrainians we were speaking to here today say that initially they were shocked that this invasion was happening, and now they can't quite believe how quickly things are escalating. They say they never expected for the capital, Kyiv, to be under such serious attack in a matter of days. And really the question on everyone's minds who we spoke to today, it was, do we stay or do we go? And it seemed like people were firmly in one camp or the other. People were either here willing to stand and defend this country, they were joining the military reserve, and they were looking to join that military effort. But there were many people who also were making that decision to go. In fact, when you walked around the city here, you could see people walking with suitcases. I saw many people loading up cars. People we were speaking to here say it was very difficult to find a vehicle, to find a driver. And we know that many of the people here in the city of Lviv have decided to move and go to the Polish border. Earlier today, we were hearing reports that the line to get into Poland was kilometres long, that estimated from 14 to 25 kilometres. They were the official estimates. And Poland has said that they are expecting over the course of the coming months that they may need to take on as many as 4 million refugees. So the mood here, it's not good, and it's getting worse really as the hours, the days go on.
Isabella, we know that the Russian forces have taken over the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, and that's about 90 kilometers away from the Ukrainian capital. Do we know of their advancement? How far away are they from the capital now?
Well, as we go to air, we are getting breaking reports that loud gunfire is being heard. It seems like there is another attack underway right now as we speak. Of course, there has been attacks going on around that city throughout the day, but it seems like it's really flaring up now, and that's sort of fitting a pattern that we're seeing. We're only a couple of days into this, but it seems like a lot of this activity, the invasion, trying to gain ground, is happening in the evening. So that's the situation in Kyiv, and throughout the day it's been very serious. We've heard local media here, Russia is claiming that they've been able to gain control over a critical western entrance to that city, and there has been fierce fighting going on around military bases, around airports. That's been going on throughout the course of the day. Ukraine's government have called on everyone in that city. They've made some extraordinary comments. They've said residents should start preparing petrol bombs, and they've been handing out weapons to anyone who'll take them. Now, it's probably important to say as well that the UK have come out. They say their intelligence shows that the majority of troops heading for Kyiv are still more than 50 kilometres away. There was some discussion today that maybe the Russian offensive was moving a little slower than expected, but as we go to air tonight, it looks like things are intensifying.
Right, Isabella Higgins, we'll leave you there in Lviv and head now to Jade McMillan, who's in our Washington bureau. Jade, NATO allies have been meeting. What measures have they agreed to?
Well, NATO has condemned in the strongest possible terms, it says, Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has added that the scenes we are seeing now in the Ukrainian capital suggest that Moscow is trying to topple the Ukrainian government. NATO allies have also condemned Belarus. They argue that Belarus has enabled Russia by allowing Belarus to be used as a base for Russian troops. We saw a huge build-up of Russian troops in Belarus, very close to the Ukrainian border, in the lead-up to this attack. Now, NATO partners had already started building up the number of troops along its eastern flank to protect members who are very nervously watching what is unfolding in Ukraine at the moment. They've now announced that they are deploying elements of NATO's Rapid Response Force. That includes land, air, maritime and special Special Operations Forces, Jens Stoltenberg, says there are now more than 100 jets on high alert in 30 different locations and more than 120 ships from the high north to the Mediterranean, including 3 strike carrier groups. He is warning that every single inch of NATO territory will be protected.
That's the reason why we are deploying more troops in the eastern part of the alliance, to make sure that there is no possibility to misunderstand our readiness to protect and defend all allies. And again, this is to preserve peace, to prevent an attack, and to prevent that the war which is going on in Ukraine spill over to any NATO allied country. And that was the message from NATO leaders today.
Now, Jade, the UN Security Council is meeting later today. We've had condemnation from international leaders, we've had condemnation from UN leaders. What can we expect from this Security Council meeting?
Well, the UN Security Council is expected to vote on a draft resolution condemning Russia for its invasion of Ukraine and demanding that it immediately withdraw all its forces. Now, Russia is a permanent member of the Security Council, meaning it has a veto power, and so this resolution is destined to fail. But Western allies hope that it will still send a strong message to Moscow, that it will demonstrate how isolated Russia has become. What will be closely watched, though, is the response of a couple of other countries, namely India and China. India has been developing much closer ties to Washington. It is part of the Quad, a grouping that includes India, the US, Japan and Australia. The other 3 members of the Quad have condemned Russia's actions. They have announced significant sanctions against Russia, but India at this point has stopped short of even publicly condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia is a major supplier of defensive equipment to India. The 2 countries have a long-standing relationship, and so while the Indian Prime Minister has spoken to Vladimir Putin and appealed for an end to the violence, he hasn't gone anywhere near as far as what the US would like him to. And the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has been on the phone to his Indian counterpart to stress the importance of what he described as a strong collective response. China is also refusing to characterise Russia's actions as an invasion. It's accused the US of fueling tensions by sending weapons to Ukraine. The bigger picture, of course, when it comes to China is the concern that Russia's actions could embolden Beijing when it comes to Taiwan. Taiwan, of course, China claiming Taiwan as its own territory. The US President Joe Biden yesterday warned that any countries seen to be supporting Russia would be, in his words, stained by association. He didn't mention China specifically, but we have heard from the European Union today urging China to use its influence with Moscow here.
We are going to embark with my fellow ministers in a diplomatic reach out of everybody in the world in order to build a majority of people voting in the General Assembly against Russia, to condemn Russia. If the United Nations doesn't condemn what Russia is doing, then it is the law of the jungle. It is the law of the stronger, the one who is mighty and then invades the others using brutal force. If the United Nations don't condemn the Russian behavior, then it is the whole international system who is being put in cause.